Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We're live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and if you hit the bell you'll get notifications of when we are live, and of course when we've got some unique video content that we think might interest you. If you love your football, we're delighted you can join the rest of the family here, and ever-growing viewers, and of course people downloading PLZ Soccer's app as well to get all the latest breaking football news. It's a good way to start in the company of Alan Ruff and Hugh McDonald. Scotland, a win, unexpected against Denmark, but a good win, Hugh McDonald.
An absolute great one. I mean, I tweeted last night, that's the best Scotland have played since Big Ruffy was in goal.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a really good performance last night against a good team. Now, I know the people are talking about Denmark had a few missing, but Scotland had a few missing too. I just thought the whole strategy, the way they played, the technique of the team, the energy in the team, the passion, I just thought it was a tremendous performance, Peter.
Yeah, I think we'll get a lot of positive ones today. Hi to Joe, and also to David Bradley, John Nicholson as well. So many people talking about the great performance. Ruffy, you must have been impressed the way they played the football, never mind the goals.
Yeah, I'm actually not really bothered whether they were seeded or no seeded, because at home, with that crowd and the players lifting themselves to that level, I think we could take anybody. You look at Italy, they're drawing nothing each, one each.
No, calm your jets.
You can't beat Northern Ireland, Italy, you know, so, you know, I think we've got to be positive and get behind them. I mean, I agree with Hugh. I think we got Denmark at the right time. They'd qualified, they'd left maybe 5 or 6 players out, but you've still got to go and beat them. And the way they went about them, I mean, I know Craig Gordon had one save that was offside, but I can't even remember them cutting us open any other time.
The boy had a miskick, remember?
Oh, right, just before the second goal. Yeah. I thought I'd went in, oh my God. That
would have made it 1-1.
Oh.
Yeah. Listen, we'll talk about it in greater detail. You can give us your thoughts. So many people just mentioning it was a great performance from Scotland last night. Thank you to countless people who have mentioned that. And thank you to so many people who have utilised, when you download the PLZ Soccer app, in the submissions section, you can actually post a little message to us. It'll drop in immediately to us and we can read it out. But you can actually record a video as well if you've got a chance to record it, drop it into the show. We'll send you out something nice if we use it on the programme. But the one little nice touch before anything kicked off and people were predicting draws, wins, losses, you name it, at Hampden Park there was a lovely little double picture just paying tribute to Walter Smith and Bertie Auld. We haven't been in your company since the passing of Bertie, but for the two great men, it's been a tough old month, Hugh.
It has, because we use the term perhaps too much legend, but these guys were definite legends. I mean, I think one of the great things about it, they might have been better players in the Lisbon team. I think maybe there was 3: Tommy Gemmell, Jimmy Johnston and Bobby Murdoch. But, Bertie was a great player. But there was nobody who enjoyed being a Lisbon Lion more than Bertie Auld. Bertie Auld loved that. You saw the concourse at Celtic Park before games, the way he interacted with fans. He made people's days and all that. And the private work that goes on as well. Walter was the same with people. I heard a story over the weekend from somebody who had written to Bertie to say that she would like a letter because he was her husband's favourite player, and he was dying. He was actually dying at home, and she looked out the window 2 days later, and who's crunching up the path but Bertie to come and see the guy. And she says she could barely get him out of the house. You can imagine what he was like, sitting having cup of tea after a cup of tea, talking to the guy. So that's a sign of his humanity, and I think it's a sign that he loved being a Lion, he loved being a legend, he loved being part of Celtic Football Club.
I'm going to read out more than a few messages a little later on. It was a lovely tribute at the start of the match. What unfolded after that was some very good football by Scotland, albeit now we've got to be realistic about it. Denmark had a few players out that probably would have started in the game, but not a significant dent to a really good quality side that hadn't lost a game. I mean, let's put this in perspective. You can't take anything away from Scotland. We'd possibly maybe 2 or 3 players, Ruffy, that might have been in at the start, at the forefront of Steve Clarke's selection.
Yeah, I think Patterson would have been playing, Diggs would have been playing, you know, McTominay, you know,
Hanley maybe,
the centre halves. Yeah, so I mean, I just think we got them at the right time, you know. And anybody ever says again, move that game away from Hampden, is talking a load of rubbish. That epitomised last night what playing at Hampden's all about, with the support there.
Yeah.
They get right behind the team. It is electric, and it is particularly when the team's doing well, and it must just push the players forward, you know, with that kind of reception. It's magnificent.
Yeah, I think at times, you know, whether it's pundits, journalists, just fans, we all look at things and we all try and analyse what's the reason for something that's negatively, you know, not happening. We're looking to see how can we turn it around. Good teams turn around stadiums, I think, sometimes.
Aye, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, if you're watching a team on the front foot with a game that means something in a sellout, atmosphere's going to be charged. I always made this thing about Hampden. You know, people were saying to me, "Oh, there's no atmosphere." You say, "Well, there's no atmosphere because there's no people there, or you know, there's nothing." You know,
the team there.
Aye,
yeah.
I think. I mean,
You're not winning. Yeah.
You're not winning, and I think, see, when someone's on the line, everybody's energised. I mean, I think the great thing about last night was, you know, the energy coming from the stands, but the energy in the players as well. There seemed to be a real, you know, kind of communion between the two to go forward, everybody in it together, and the roars that were happening. I always love, Peter, you know, when you see you know, action replays or anything like that, and the camera is shaking that wee bit.
Yes, absolutely.
I always love that, because that shows you, you know, what's happening inside the stadium. When you got a bit of that last night.
The good sign about it is you can always tell when a team's playing well, you can't get a ticket.
Aye.
You know, there's a real demand. Everybody wants to be part of it. There's a feel-good factor. People talk about it the next day. I think it does lift the nation. I wonder if you agree with that point. David McFarlane actually sent us a message saying, "Can you pull up Alisson, because he predicted that Scotland would beat Denmark." Now, David clearly doesn't know that long-term, there's nothing worse than blowing your own trumpet about one particular result, because you can fall flat in your face. Some people predicted it. Some people thought it was going to be a torrid 90 minutes. I actually thought we'd have struggled with this one. I didn't see us winning the game, and I certainly didn't see it in the manner we played as well, which was good. The positives, Ruffy, and we could dissect this team from now until doomsday for this particular result. Let's not get carried away. John Souttar. I did mention to you the week before that I was impressed with him, you know, because against Dundee, he hit about 5 or 6 40-yard diagonals right to the player's toe. And I thought, great. The only thing I worried about, and I don't know about yourself, I worried about if the injuries would have taken a bit of pace off him, whether he's got the pace. And that jury is still out. But boy, he deserved his moment in the sun.
Yeah, he didn't have, you know, and I prefer playing a guy in a position that's his position. You know, he's a centre half, and that's where he plays. And I know we put Tomlin back there for a reason, but I prefer my centre halves to do what they're good at, and certainly the corner. It couldn't have felt to a better person, you know, and it went in the back of the net, obviously, and you could see the delight in his face, because when you're a player, these kind of things is what happened to you in the last 2 years all come flooding back, and you know, you just think, I can't believe this has happened to me.
Yeah.
And you could see the joy in his face.
Yeah, absolutely. And the manager was, at the end of the game, rightly so, delighted with Souttar's performance, and delighted for the lad himself.
John Souttar can be the story of the night for me. Was to come back from the injuries that John had over such a prolonged period of time. It was a bonus, and I know how happy he was just to be in the squad, to get the chance to play tonight, and to play the way he played. Not obviously the goal was the icing on the cake for him, but his performance was outstanding as well. So congratulations to John. I gave him a big hug as he came off the pitch there, and it was quite emotional.
Yeah, I think it was an emotional one for John Souttar. And again, when you talk about stories, never mind comebacks, I mean, Anthony Ralston must have been absolutely pinching himself. I mean, this is a story that's just outrageous.
Well, look at the summer. In the summer, it was oh, get him to, right, for Celtic, you know, we need everybody, you know, Celtic Mason, we need a right back, you know, that's the first thing coming in, we need a right, we have to get, Ralston's just no, blah, blah. We're now in November, and he's playing for Scotland. And by the way, we're you know, if he's got a real chance because he can play either side.
Yeah,
he's got a real chance of being in the squad going forward as well. So it just shows you about football. I mean, football's full of these great stories. Suter's such a wonderful story, Peter. You know, this terrible injury, the Achilles tendon, coming back, scoring a goal, and that's what sport's all about. That's what, you know, great. I mean, you could go through the team as well. I mean, you look at Dykes, you know, comes from Australia, playing at Queen of the South. Che Adams, did Che Adams ever think he would be playing international football? Probably not. He had a smashing game last night. Yeah. John McGinn, okay, going high in the EPL, starts at St Mirren and Hibs. He's had a long road to the top. It's just full of just smashing stories. Yeah. Billy Gilmer can't get a game for Norwich. Lights up a World Cup qualifier.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one good thing, I think, before we get to the possibility, which we'll be discussing about semi-final playoff and final playoff, is we do have a bit of depth to come in certain positions.
Yeah, the players that were coming on last night didn't let themselves down. And as a manager, you know, I think you always read about a manager, you know, saying it's great to have 11 on the park, but when things aren't going particularly well, if you turn around and have a look at the dugout and what selection you've got to come on, you maybe panic a wee bit. I don't think that's the case now. No. I think there's people sitting on that bench bursting to get on to prove to him that they should be starting. And that's brilliant.
Agree. Yeah. I mean, you say Gordon's certainty, right? But that back three, McTominay and Hanley will have expectations of getting into the back three, or hopes of getting into the back three. So that means you've got to drop Suter and Cooper. You know, that would be harsh. Midfield, Armstrong came on and played well as well. McLean came on and played well. Up front, Adams on his own, great, but Dykes has not done anything wrong as well. So does he play two? Does he play, you know, Adam just behind Dykes, etc.? So he's got tough choices in a lot of positions. I think there's certainties for me. You know, there are certainties. I mean, obviously the goalie's a certainty. Yep. Calmack is a certainty. Yep. Gilmer now has become a certainty. McGinn has too. But beyond that, there's nobody nailed on, I don't think.
Yeah, I think Adams and Dykes are nailed on, if only for the fact that we don't have.
If he plays two,
yeah, we don't have a lot of options. As far as the game and the stats, I mean, you just have to look at some of the stats in this one. Denmark have won all 9 qualifiers. They've scored 29 goals, conceding 1 before the game against Scotland. Denmark hadn't lost in 24 qualifying games since November 2016 until last night. Scotland have won 6 competitive games in a row for the first time in 91 years. 8 victories is Scotland's most ever in a calendar year. 23 points is Scotland's biggest ever points haul in a World Cup qualification tournament. Steve Clarke has the best win percentage of any Scotland boss when managing more than 30 games, with it 48% at the moment. So positive stuff on this result. And again, we are a nation that, you know, can, from time to time, as you'll probably know if you're going out at the weekend, we can go out and have a really good time, get super excited, Ruffy, and then fall flat in our face. So we might as well enjoy this game from last night. I mean, watching the highlights as well, you want to watch it again because you enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, but I did watch it this afternoon, you know, before I came in, and when that first goal hit the back of the net, you could feel yourself jumping up, and you can see the reaction of all the supporters, and particularly the players as well, and obviously Suter. But it just shows you, you know, I think it was Wee Gordon or somebody said, a winning Scotland team puts a smile on everybody's face. It doesn't matter whether you're into football or not into football. If you're going shopping and people are going, did you see that last night? Did you see that? And it just makes the place a nicer place to be in.
Yeah, have a look at the group, Hugh, and it really is. It's excellent when you think of maybe at the start of it. I mean, we were, and I maybe was in the same camp as yourself, thinking this is just not going to happen for us.
Absolutely.
You know, even with that qualification for the Euros, I just wondered about where we were going with it, and I thought Austria would make a real fist of it. But Scotland under Steve Clarke, not only has he had, and I think the manager deserves a fair bit of the plaudits here, he's got as well organised, he's managed to utilise what he had available at various stages and get the best out of them. And then, as with anything, and I think we mentioned this in the last 2 or 3 years, everyone has been saying, okay, with what he's got, hopefully some of the younger ones will emerge. A Billy Gilmore, somebody will grasp the nettle and come in. A Nathan Patterson, you know, you mentioned Ralston. Suddenly there are players available to him. Suddenly there's a suitor. I mean, we've been crying out, saying on this show, please, please, God, somewhere, give us a centre half.
Exactly, and you know, and we've got you know, top class players, and McTominay's a top class player. Plays for Manchester United. We've got top class player in Robertson, who plays for Liverpool, and Tierney for Arsenal as well. So there's quality there as well. Gilmore's quality. I look at that table there, and it's really interesting. I mean, I thought Scotland would finish third in the group.
Yeah.
And this was kind of reinforced by the fact Scotland dropped 7 points in that group, but they dropped 4 points in the first 2 games. So it was pretty reasonable to expect. Yeah. So after, you know, drawing with Israel and drawing with Austria at home, the only blot in the copybook after that, and it was a forgivable one, was losing to Denmark away. That's a powerful run of form, yeah. Peter. You know, and it's, I think in all of the games as well, even against the Faroe Islands away, which I know was looked upon as a scrappy performance, I always had the feeling personally that we were going to win. I thought we would get something in the last 10 minutes. I wasn't. Yeah, I just thought. I just thought there was something about this team that you know, going forward, that they would create something late on. I just feel as I think it's one of those intangibles. You just look at them, and you look at the characters in the team, and there seems to be, like, you know, what Gordon would call good types in the team.
Yeah. There must be a tremendous belief that it doesn't matter whether it's the first minute or the 89th minute.
And the guys there that have done things. I mean, you know, Tierney, you know, has been in big situations with Celtic. Robertson's won a Champions League. You know, Gilmore's been part of a Champions League winning squad as well. McGinn has got this background of he's had to work and scrap and grind for everything. Yeah. And now he's got to the level he's got to, which is the elite level. He's not going to let that go. He's not going to. Yeah. So there's just good types in the team.
It's great. I'm glad you mentioned McGinn. He's I never thought I'd say this, Ruff. He is a phrase I don't think we'll be using it too many times, but he's got the best bum since Douglas.
Yeah. And I can't remember who it was, but somebody was very critical of him because he loses possession of the ball too much. Yeah. You know, he tries to do too much. But I think the more games he plays now, I think he's been more disciplined, whether that's Stevie Clarke. Yeah. It's saying, look, you don't have to be taking on 2 or 3 and then losing it, and then we're on the back foot. Just do your wee bit and then get it to somebody else.
Well, last night was perfect because he was almost playing a hold-up role. He was getting his back to goal all the time, just holding it up and then interlinking. And then the pass for what could have been the third goal. I mean, you know, from the deep cross to the back post, Adams does the smart thing, heads it across, and Armstrong's blocked by Kyer on the line. I mean, that was a terrific move.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve Clarke, now where we are, obviously wants to surpass what we've achieved already in qualifying for one major tournament.
I think 2021's been a decent year for us, if I'm being honest. And if we can surpass that or match that in 2022, then maybe we'll get the ultimate aim, which is to go to Qatar. And yeah, it's nice tonight, getting in the playoffs, getting the home playoff, but we have two tough games to go through. But this group of players want to go to Qatar 2022, and the head coach wants to do that as well. So let's see what next year brings.
Yeah, fingers crossed that it continues, this momentum and the positivity around it. Now, the one thing that everybody, and he usually waits till we're on the show, and then something comes into his head, and then he throws it out there. He doesn't know the answer, but he throws it out there expecting us to continually feed his need for little things that he should have researched. So I thought we'll see this off. We'll see this off at the pass as Gabriel Antoniazzi explains the semi-final and beyond.
Scotland will be seeded for the World Cup playoff draw, which takes place next Friday on the 26th of November. But what exactly does that mean, and who could they face? 12 countries will make the playoffs, and they'll be drawn into 3 separate parts, playing a semi and then a final between the 24th and 29th of March next year, which means only 3 teams will eventually progress to Qatar. 6 seeded teams will all be at home for the semis, whilst the host for the final will also be decided at next week's draw. By finishing as one of the 6 best second-place teams, Scotland are seeded, and they'll be drawn at home for the semi-final with the other seeds, Italy, Portugal, Russia, and 2 more sides who are yet to be decided. The 4 worst second-place teams are joined by the 2 best remaining Nations League sides to create the 6 unseeded, who will play away from home in the semi. Currently, Austria, North Macedonia are both guaranteed to be non-seeds, their potential semi-opponents for Scotland, with the Czech Republic, Finland, Wales and most likely Turkey the remaining teams, but that could change this evening. A best case scenario would be Scotland against North Macedonia at Hampden for the semi, and then taking on the winner of Russia or Finland in Glasgow again 4 days later. However, a trickier path could see the Czechs face another trip to Hampden in the semi before a daunting final against European champions Italy in Rome. Thankfully, all will be much clearer after the draw next Friday.
Yeah, North Macedonia and maybe Russia, maybe acceptable. Italy, avoid like the plague.
Yeah, listen, I said we would finish third. Then when it became clear that we were going to get the playoffs, I said, we're not going to get through the playoffs. I'll probably be wrong again. I hope I'm wrong again.
Will it affect your confidence
not
at your age?
Not
I don't
my
think
age.
so.
No,
You'll probably get another column out of it.
I'll get a column.
The man who makes mistakes.
I'll get a column out of how I earn a living by being wrong. I may get a Netflix series.
Well, I was listening. I wouldn't rule it out for you, by the way. If I see him making car programs, I'm chucking it, Ruffy. It's unbelievable. The luck at this guy. He can jump out the window and go up the way. Although I don't know why I'm looking at you. You're his kindred spirit. As far as the semi-final, listen. We've talked about Hampden. What do you make of it? Do you like it? Were you at the game? Did you enjoy the whole buzz of it all? Liam Cooper is hoping that we get a similar feeling when it's semi-final time.
It's unbelievable. We set out at the start of the night to get that seeded spot, and we've done that with a great performance against a very strong team. Their form speaks for itself. We knew it was going to be tough, and we knew we had to have 14, 15, 16 players bang at it tonight, and we definitely got that. Backed by an unbelievable support, stuck with us throughout, and we're going to need them in the playoffs.
Well, I think he's one of the boys that deserves credit, Hugh, because remember we're all discussing about players that didn't really want to come. Mm-hmm. And suddenly there are players who want to be there. They want to be part of it. Even if they have to kick their heels for a moment, they know there's going to be, and Cooper's the classic, a moment where they're going to have to give us 90 minutes of quality.
Absolutely, and he did. He was absolutely instrumental in the first goal, of course. And he's a good player too. I mean, he plays in the Premier League. He's not a guy that we've got from the lower divisions and brought through. I mean, he's got a pedigree as well. I just think there's an absolutely very strong group growing there at the moment,
And all these players in that squad, their clubs are going to get the benefit of it, because these players will go away now and go, I've got to march to keep my form up. I've got to perform to a high level to make sure I'm in this squad, and then obviously further than that is I could be going to a World Cup.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think that the key issue here, you always sometimes can be accused of being insular in our thinking. Once you watch the team, you watch them perform, then we sometimes dissect the opposition and say, oh, well, they weren't at their full strength, or they're not really a good team. But this Denmark side, certainly over since 2016, have managed to get better and better and better, and that was a long run without tasting defeat. And their manager, Kasper Hjulmand, reckons Scotland could be on the verge of something special.
Big congratulations to Scotland, to my colleague Steve Clark and the group of players. I think you deserved the win today. You deserved the number 2 in the group, and I hope for the best for you guys in March. So maybe, hopefully, we can see each other again in Qatar. So I think they were highly motivated today. They played a very good match, and I think Scottish football is up for something great also in 22. I definitely hope that they will join us.
Yeah, nice little compliment there from the manager. They embraced it at the end of the game, and I think
there was a
it looked
conversation
as
as
if it was I mean affectionate in a way of a respect for each other.
I think there's respect, and I mean, I think after the victory by Denmark in Denmark, I mean, Steve Clarke was very honest and frank about how good a side the Denmark were, and how Scotland has just been outplayed, and he's quite frank about that. So I think the respect was paid back last night. I'm not suggesting Denmark were outplayed last night; they weren't. But I think I think there was warm sort of. I just think appreciation, Peter, of what Clarke has been doing. Like this international management's got particular challenges, so they'll both share that. And one of the challenges is not getting the players together. Sometimes it needs time to build a system. And I think it's becoming clearer that not only does Clarke know what he's doing, but more importantly, the players are knowing what is required of them in the system.
Yeah, Peter Ramsey's just said Scotland are going to the World Cup in Qatar in 2022. Well, listen, I love your confidence. Let's hope that is the case. As far as the other home nations, here's how the results all panned out from last night. Scotland with the win by 2-0, Suter and Adams, and then San Marino 0, England 10, Northern Ireland 0, Italy 0. So that one there, Wales against Belgium, that's going to be an absolute belter. Obviously, we'll be keeping a close eye on that as well, Hugh.
Yeah, and there's so many reasons for keeping a close eye. I mean, it's just a good football match, isn't it? I mean, Belgium are always smashing to watch, but of course it could have implications for us in March.
Yeah, the one thing about it, Ruffy, and I'm going to get your thoughts on this once we hear from this man. Now, I do like the England manager. I think he's a class act. I think he's a thoroughly decent man. And he certainly is at a period where he's managed to get some really good quality players together and producing results. 10-0 is maybe a bit over the top against the inferior San Marino, but England manager Gareth Southgate says his side never took their foot off the gas.
Well, I just like the fact that we've got a mentality where we don't take our foot off the gas, and whatever the challenge we set the players, they respond to it. So, I mean, we've been fortunate to break quite a few records over the last few years. And
it was a belter of a win for them, Ruffy. I just get a feeling from England that there may be a sense that they've come so close with the Euros that they might think to themselves, will they think to themselves Qatar is a country, and venues where they can produce, or is that kind of climate, regardless of how cold the stadium is and how much air conditioning they have?
No, I think they will believe, and any club that goes into a tournament and does particularly well will believe they can go to the next step. They've certainly got enough young players in there who are now hitting the heady heights, and what we saw at the Euros, the evidence is there. Again, I think they're a quarter-final side in big tournaments, when the big ones come in, Brazil and everybody, but they've certainly got, I like the way they play football. I think they're a good side to watch. I don't like saying that, but they are a good side to watch. And if they go on,
I don't like saying that. Hey, there you go, Ruffy.
No, I'm old school, all right, I don't want them to win it. I don't get any want them to win it. God, we know what happens when they win it, And we were all terrified in the Euros that they were going to win it, and they could have won it. But no, I think they've got young players coming through, and I do think that they're not far away from winning a tournament. I don't know when that'll be, next year or the year after that or whatever. Yeah. But they're ahead of us.
No, well, listen, try not to state the obvious, but you think they're near to winning a tournament?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, okay. Do you share that belief, Hugh?
I think they're just short, but I can see why Alan thinks that. I think they believe they can win a tournament. I think that'll be, their aim will not be, they'll be going to Qatar to win. I think the conditions...
When did they not believe in the last... Since 66, when did they not believe?
I think some of the players didn't. I think some of the players' heads could go down in big matches. They just didn't have the... England, over the years in 66, lost an awful lot of matches which they really shouldn't have lost. Yeah. Games, even against Brazil, Ronaldinho's day, Brazil playing with 10 men, and, that's a chance. I think they've missed a lot of chances over the years. I think they missed a chance at the Euros against Italy as well, 1-0 up.
It was an easier run to the
Oh,
final.
absolutely. But look at the run they had to the World Cup as well. And you know, if you've seen them playing Croatia for a place in the finals, that's a chance as well. Yeah. I think they're let down. I think where they'll be let down is I like the manager as a person, as a character, but I don't think he's a World Cup winning manager. And I think the goalkeeper's not a goalkeeper for them.
You've had a wee bee in your bonnet at Southgate, haven't you?
I just think, like, I really like him as a guy, and I've met him, and he's a good guy. I just don't think I think, see when it comes to the big matches, like a Euros final or a World Cup semi, you really need somebody top class there. And I don't think he's a top class manager.
Was Capello a top class manager?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, so what happened there?
I think again. I think
we could dedicate a programme to it. But
I think sometimes there that, you know, the belief in the players just to get through the big games. If you saw the games that Capello lost, that team should have lost. Again, I think they're just short, Peter.
Okay, listen, Scotland, brilliant, great result. Delighted for John Souttar. So many players have produced excellent performances. We've got 2 or 3 really good players who I think we all just rely on to be constantly 8, 9, sometimes 10 out of 10 on performances, and certainly they deserve all the plaudits for last night, a 2-0 win over Denmark. Great stuff. Ruffy's getting excited, which if you look back over the 10 years we've been on this programme, there are some times when I just thought I wasn't going to go out again because he put me on a complete downer. So he's getting excited, so something's happening. Lots of people posted messages. I could read out thousands upon thousands about Bertie Auld, and thank you very much for that. And it coincided with the week before when there was lots of heartwarming and lovely messages about Walter Smith as well. It really, at times, sadly, you lose great people and it brings everybody together, and Bertie Auld was like that. And I've got a special one-to-one coming up. I'm doing quite a lot of one-to-one interviews with footballers, managers, past and present, that hopefully you will enjoy. One of them is Gordon Strachan, and I caught up with him in our one-to-one special, but I did ask him about Bertie Auld and his passing, and of course Gordon's relationship with him.
He was one of the guys that really helped me when I got there. As you know, I wasn't a universally loved when I first got to Celtic, and I found it very hard at times. And Bertie used to come in, lighten up the place, and then go to the washing room. And then he used to meet with John Clark, but Bertie in particular, come in with Bobby Lennox, who was also good. And the two of them, Bobby and Bertie, used to sit down and speak to me and go, aye, never mind, once you get going, son, it's fine, I love you and all this. It's a great club to be. And I've got to say that Bertie was such a great help. He had nothing about this kind of, what we did in the past and all that kind of stuff. He lived for that moment. And at that moment, he was trying to make me feel a bit better, which he did. So, ever grateful.
Yeah, nice touch from Gordon Strachan there, because, you know, sometimes it can be a lonely job being a manager. And if you get a couple of Lisbon Lions, Bobby Lennox, Bertie Auld walk in and say, hey, look, son, when it clicks, you know, you will start to enjoy the job. You know, just a wee kind of a booster for someone. You know,
especially when, you know, there can be the threat of sniping, you know, which is, you know, and the Lisbon Lions never, ever indulged in any of that. They were always supportive of the club and the incumbent manager. And it was a good point that Gordon, you know, that a really insightful point, that how important it was to him, and you know, how significant it is just to get that wee bit of support from Martin O'Neill, you know, would say the same, you know, as you know. So interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was a character, and you know, when we were paying tribute to him yesterday on the programme, when he had passed away, I sent Ruffy a text and I said, Bertie's sadly passed away. I think he's finally going to let you go to Liverpool. Which I'm sure went down like a lead balloon, but nevertheless, you know, the one thing about it, as you can see, Ruffy, from the tributes, he touched so many of the fans right across. I mean, we've said he transcended football, but the pictures of, you know, fans laying the scarves and that. There'll be countless thousands of them over the next few days, because there's a lot of people who thoroughly enjoyed, his infectious character.
Yeah, and I said it the other day. I think that's what modern football's lacking. They're lacking the relationship between the players and the fans. And I know things move on and players have got their lives to lead and all that, but these players went out of their way to meet the fans. I mean, deliberately went out of their way. It was a pleasure for them to meet the fans and put a smile on a fan's face that's maybe not too well, or an older guy who's in a care home or whatever. They went out of their way, and I'm not saying the modern day player doesn't do that, because they do it.
Yeah.
But I think more of them in that era did it because they enjoyed doing it.
I'm glad you said that, because I was out today. I'm a patron of St Margaret of Scotland Hospice, and I was out there today, and one of the people who works there said to me, we put out a message just about Bertie passing, because that's what he did. He came, he would go to a hospice. He wasn't seeking publicity. He would go to a hospice and go around people who were terminally ill, as many of that generation, and countless up to date. I don't want to in any way take a pop or a slight at players nowadays. They do it as well without any recognition. But he went round, and lots of old people will remember Bertie in his prime, and he was chatting to them and just brightening up their day, in the last days of their lives.
But he was made for that.
Yeah.
He was made. I mean, he was he's a fantastic midfield player, a top class, elite European cup-winning midfield player. But the other side to him, this character, this charisma he had. And this ability, he was made to interact with people. He always had a joke for somebody. I always remember my son when he first met him, Peter. He's in awe of him, and within 10 minutes they were arguing about football, like equals. And Bertie was listening to what Ali was saying, and there was a wee bond right away. And every time they met after that, there was a little bond. And the amount of that'll be replicated throughout Scotland.
Yeah.
I mean, the mass of Celtic supporters will have a Bertie Auld story. The day they met him in the foyer when they were collecting tickets, the day they met him outside Brother Walfred when he was walking in. I mean, these are all stories miles away from the playing career.
Yeah.
Miles away from that. Which the playing career was absolutely stellar. But these stories, and Bertie was so good, it was funny. He was personable, and he loved doing it. He loved doing it.
He loved wearing that Lisbon line
jacket. You couldn't have.
Oh, he loved that jacket.
He loved that jacket, as they all did.
Yeah.
And quite rightly so.
And rightly so. You're right, Ruffy, because they should be proud of what they achieved. And by the way, because obviously Peter and Ruffy's Football Show is just one part of the PLZ soccer umbrella, right across the Facebook pages, and I think Bob may be questioning whether we were getting thousands of messages. Thank you to the people on Facebook, on Twitter, on our Instagram, and on this programme's feed, and on our app downloads. Thousands of messages, Bob, about Bertie Auld. I think Bertie Auld was loved by Celtic fans, neutrals. Lots of Rangers fans paid tribute to him as well, because they realised not only was he, a Celtic fan, but he was a character. I think people appreciate if you've got a love of a club and you have a love of football. I think we only have to look at the last couple of weeks. So, Bob, thousands of messages we managed to get through, and we thank everybody for that. Let's move on to other stuff before we finish today. Giovanni van Bronckhorst still seems to be top choice for Rangers. I'm reading elsewhere that Ronald Koeman's odds have been slashed as well, but they're taking their time. They're not going to rush into it. My not fear or concern, Hugh, my question at this moment is, by getting the right man, they will be able to, once they get the compensation for Gerrard, they will say, right, okay, here's your money. The big question, I think, for any manager coming in is, how much am I getting in January to take this club through to back-to-back titles?
Absolutely, and the evidence is that, Gerrard was told pretty emphatically, and actually said in press conferences that, that any future buys would have to be funded by sales. So the answer would seem to be pretty clear there. You know, we will look at the annual figures, Peter, and there's no room for manoeuvre. It's as simple as that. You know, you're talking about cumulative losses of over £80 million. These losses are all owed to people, including fans, that put money in. So you wonder how that doesn't stretch to eternity. There's got to be a finishing line there. So they've got to. There has to be a realisation that, you know, the next move over players might be player sales rather than players coming aboard.
Yeah, I mean, that for me is the big question here. I always say, you know, regardless of the experts who are talking about Rangers' financial situation, if you've got individuals who are Rangers fanatics who have got lots of money, if they constantly want to delve into their wealth, then, you know, Rangers can keep on this situation, despite the fact of the losses that you mentioned, 23.5 million, and despite the fact that they need 7.5 million between now and the end of the season. They will have a kitty there to recruit the manager, but it's that big question again. If you've got to supply £7.5 million before the end of the season, Hugh, Ruffy, and I'm not making this up, this has come from the Rangers accounts, we're dealing with the facts here, then someone is going to have to dip their hand in their pocket and say, this is the money you're going to get.
Yeah, and we all know obviously that came to light because it had to come to light. But and fans being fans, will not be really worrying about it as long as they keep winning and as long as they're top of the league and they're in Europe and everything. But if these things start coming off the tick board, then people are going to be saying, financially, what's happening? You know, and it is a lot of money. I know Rangers have said, yeah, we're not worried about it because we've worked towards this and that, but it's still there in black and white, and unless you do something about it, and that manager, however it is, will be coming in, his first question will be, where do you want me to take this club, and what have I got to take this club better than what you are now? And you have to get the right answers. Yep. And one of the questions he'll be answering is the financial one.
Yeah, the one thing that's to the benefit, obviously, of Rangers is they had a bit of time with the international break. Is there a need to rush it through now, Hugh, with the semi-final coming up, or is that just a case of, look, Jermaine Defoe and the backroom team that's left, they'll handle that?
I think they'll handle it. I think it's really crucial, always with these things, to get the appointment right. You know, you've got to get the appointment right. You've got to, I think they've got time between now and January for sitting down and deciding how they dispose of players and how they acquire players. I think the crucial thing, I think Van Bronckhorst would be, in coaching terms, it would be a superb choice. I mean, he's got a really good pedigree, Van Bronckhorst. He's got the link with Rangers as well, so he knows the league, he knows what's required. I think the big crucial point, Peter, will be that one. What have I got to work with? And that'll be that'll be the one that they'll be discussing at the moment, and that'll be the one that Van Bronckhorst has got his eyes on.
Okay, we won't have you for obviously until next week, Hugh, and I know you'll have the car programme to do. You'll be doing the travel programme as well, and then you'll
University Challenge.
The weather. Can you imagine it? By the way, we could get him doing the PLZ soccer weather. Listen, on that point, Hugh, the semi-finals. How do you see them going? St Johnstone defending their cup, and Rangers with Hibs in the horizon.
I think that they both sort of tilted towards the Glasgow sides. I think Celtic are on a run now. I think St Johnstone know how to make it difficult for Celtic to sit in and be very organised, but I think Celtic can and will win that. Rangers v Hibs, interesting. You know, what will the Gerrard factor have to do with it? Hibs were on a bit of a slide before the international break, weren't as so I think it'll be I think we're aiming for a Rangers Celtic final, Peter.
Okay. Steve Keane, who's the ex-Blackburn Rovers boss, is now in as the academy director at Hibs. There's things going on in the background now. There's big shuffles. I mean, Ron Gordon's son Ian's taking a more prominent role. There's changes afoot.
Yeah, we would expect it to be kept up to scratch with that in McManus, but he's not told us that one, has he?
Yeah.
Obviously, not telling him everything through there, so we're only getting bits and bobs. But he's certainly got a CV, you know, that's what he likes doing, and he's been about the place. But you're right, behind the scenes, there's a lot of things happening there since Leanne's left. A lot of appointments behind the scenes, and I think the most important thing is that they never got the players that they wanted in that last window. So I think that needs to be pushed through, you know, to get a better quality of player into the ground.
Yeah, they're going to play a friendly, probably playing it right now as we speak, or it's just finished with Dundee. So they want to get themselves up to speed to get ready for Rangers. But behind the scenes, I mean, I've been at Easter Road on more than a few occasions this season, Hugh. They've got the new big television screens there. Things, you know, in the background are starting to follow that kind of an American model, because with the big screens comes the chance to advertise on there as well. Other areas to bring in revenue.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I'm not saying don't criticise these people, because there are criticisms that can be made and have to be made. But I like the razzmatazz about it. I like the new thinking. I like the fact that, you know, that Cormac at Aberdeen was pressing for a 6 o'clock kick-off, you know, to change things, to look at things, you know, the fan initiative that he brought in as well. I like all that. I mean, some of that stuff will fall flat in its face, but I'd rather we were trying that than not trying it and just say, oh, we'll just stick to what we've got. Because what we've got can be improved, we know that.
Yeah, and just on that point, you were in Germany with your son. I know you like to go and watch Borussia Dortmund, and you watched them lose to Leipzig, but did you see things over there again that you would love to see implemented in Scottish football? Was there something that you thought, oh, this would be great for our game?
The one thing, Peter, would be to get people to the ground earlier. And what German football does very well is it knows, like, for example, Leipzig have got 45,000 people who have bought a ticket. They get that 45,000 people to the ground early so that all the money, you know, and beer and merchandise and food is spent in the club.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how much money that creates. Now, the big problem is licensing, and that's the you know, licensing. But if you can imagine, if you got all the fans to the ground and know they could come and get good, decent food and a good pint of beer, you know, in comfort under the...
Is this inside the stadium?
Yeah, inside and outside as well. They've got two things. You can get it inside. You can actually sit at your seat with your... They've got handles that go over the seat in front of you, so you can put your pint, or is what is
in the game.
Yeah, and what happens, of course, is that people, instead of, you know, going up and down to the bar, will buy, say, the 3 pints, and they'll stick them on the chair, just have them as the game goes on.
Yeah.
And there's actually a guy who walks about with a barrel on his back. This is true. Well,
the Americans,
to give you the update.
If you wanted if you want a pint literally at your seat.
And the funny thing is, because at times I think, I can't speak for England, because there are some areas where you can get a pint there and there's no problems. Certainly in the rugby you can get all this. But as a nation in Scotland, we must be a backward nation of just squabbling idiots, because if we got to that point where you could have a beer there, Ruffy, they'd be, I'll have a beer there, I'll have a wee chaser of a whiskey, and I'll have a short, just because the boys are here. We might as well get tanked up and go as if there's no brakes in the car. Is that fair?
The German thing's really funny, because while, I mean, when we walked all the way from the Leipzig stadium back to the train station and get a train back to Berlin, and it was hilarious, because a lot of the people are, you know, people say, oh, they can handle their beer. No, a lot of the people were actually drunk. They were steaming in a way where there was no, you weren't bothered. You weren't going, you know, across the road here. You know that way, walking back for a football ground.
Yeah.
We've all had it. Well, I think I'm turning the road to you. I think I'll hang back. There was none of that. It was all very friendly, bon ami. There was a lot of drunkenness, let's be honest, there was, but it was bon ami.
You didn't feel threatened?
Not at all, not at all. And the fans were intermixing as well, you know.
How would we get around that, Hugh? Would we need Will Smith with one of those little silver gadgets that makes you forget all the madness and change you, you know?
No, it's an interesting one, doesn't it? Because I was thinking about it,
culturally, we'd need to change our whole mindset.
I was thinking about it because Ali was talking about it. Obviously, I don't drink, but Ali was talking about it walking in, saying, you know, and he just had these couple of pints at the game, and he said, isn't that so? And we were thinking, how would it work in Scotland? You know, because there's a reason it's not in Scotland, and the reason is the Scottish Cup final some years ago.
Of 41
years.
years.
41
it's a
years.
long time, isn't it?
But it's just because, but the whole experience, if anybody is listening or watching and ever wants to go to German football, I would recommend it highly.
Yeah, there's lots of people do that, Ruffy. Is that something that you would be interested in? I mean, I don't know if have you done it before? I mean, I made the trip earlier, as you know, down to Old Trafford for Ronaldo's return, just to see what the whole thing was all about. But there was people enjoying their beers. There was people enjoying their beers inside the stadiums, at the bars that were inside Old Trafford. So they've got that luxury. We, on the other hand, we are clamouring for areas where we can increase the revenue, and that for me is the next big hurdle to get over.
I think you hit it in the head, and I told you, I'm not just going on about Partick Thistle, but we are thinking actively of getting the fans earlier. Getting them along, whether it's a canopy outside and there's a bar or a soft food and maybe a wee band or something like that. Just getting them there early and keeping them there.
Because if you see, even for Thistle, see if your top attendance when you're doing well is 4,000, just for, you see you're playing Dunfermline and you're both going for the title, you got 4,000. If every one of those fans spends a tenner, just a tenner, which is a pint and maybe a burger, and a programme, not even that's £40,000.
Exactly, yeah.
What can you do with £40,000 every week?
Getting the right jazz band, for the
absolutely.
West End.
I was actually going to say, and now come along to Firhill, Bell and Sebastian are playing the latest album. Fantastic, Ruffy. Listen, we could talk about that forever and a day. We'd love to see. We'd love to see us move into the 21st century, but unfortunately, as you can tell sometimes by our YouTube feed, when we're talking about Scotland, we still have dimwits who are arguing with each other over stupid Celtic and Rangers things, which gives you an indication of their intellect. But nevertheless, we like the fans and we embrace the fans, and the ever-increasing fans now that we're on exclusively on YouTube. We love the fact that they love their football team. They want to talk about the players, the potential manager, people who actually know what they're talking about, who go and watch their team every time they play. And of course, for us, we get a chance to say we when Scotland are playing. It's absolutely magnificent. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There's a feel-good factor about it. Are you in as positive a mood as Ruffy is? He's optimistic about this. Scotland, can they do it at the semi-final stage, or possibly go one step further again, the final, win it, and Steve Clarke takes us to back-to-back major tournaments? We'd be in dreamland. The only problem that I have with all of this optimism is if we were to win the semi-final and the final, Qatar might just be too hot for you two. I just don't know.
It's going to be okay.
Will you be all right?
Qatar, I've been at Qatar at the time of the World Cup, which is November, December, and it's only about 72 degrees, Peter.
Yeah.
And the stadiums are all air conditioned.
Are you happy with 72, Ruffy?
72 is
I'd
fine.
have to probably move somewhere that's a wee bit warmer before the games.
Just to acclimatise yourself. Oh, so that's Ruffy telling me I need to send them to Brazil again.
Because the big thing about Qatar was if it was played in the summer, then you're talking about 30, 40 degrees. But that's their winter, Peter. When I was there, the top temperature was 72, 73, which is 21, 22 for modern people.
Yeah, I'd love to go.
I'm going.
Fingers crossed. Are you going?
Definitely. Well, God spares me, I'm going now.
Yeah, brilliant.
Whether we're there or not.
Aye, I'm just going.
He's just going with his son. Brilliant. Great stuff. Great to see Hugh with us here on the Tuesday. Don't forget, if you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell, then you'll get all the notifications of when we're on. The ever-increasing football family watching Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Thank you to each and every one of you. If you missed the live part of it, as ever, don't forget, you can download the PLZ Soccer app and you can watch it at your leisure. You'll get all the breaking football news on there, and you can send us videos as well of what you think about your team and anything that's bugging you in Scottish football, English football, or indeed globally. Anything at all, we're going to be talking about it on this football show, and we're going to be giving away some fantastic prizes just ahead of Christmas time. You never know, you might even win yourself an Xbox in time so that you can give it to your son or daughter and they'll think you're the best thing since sliced bread. So look out for that. Competition's on the way. Thank you very much to Hugh, to Ruffy, and from myself, Peter Martin. Thanks to you for watching.